And, you know, we were also, you had mentioned Chimezie Metu. And Chimezie Metu, like, we were talking about Akpala here. And we're saying at least Akpala can play defense, maybe if he's not fouling. He can play defense. He's really got something there. Aside from the Mezie Mamba moments, man, I don't know what Chimezie Metu's doing. And quite frankly, out of the guys that played the other night, he played the worst. Akpala and Lyles started pretty horribly, but Metu wasn't great. Metu came into the game and he fouled 3 times in a little under 4 minutes. And that you do that in a game in the regular season, when you're essentially in a roster position like Metu, where you're talking about if he's on the roster, you're dangling between being inactive and active. You're really not doing yourself any favors doing stuff like that. And again, it's not like he's going in there and playing terrific defense. He's not, I'm not going to say he's a terrible defender, but one of the things people say about him and that adds value to him is that he's a 4 and a 5. He's got a big enough body to play the 5. He's guarding Nurkic a couple of times last night. One of his fouls last night was on Nurkic. He couldn't handle it. I don't know that there's as much defensive versatility as maybe it's played up sometimes about him. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I thought that just myself. But, it's just like you watch him and you're like wondering. And he went 0 for 4 from 3. And I feel like maybe like 2 or 3 of them, it's like, yeah, those are the ones he needed to take. But there was one, I think it ended up being late in the shot clock. But before he'd gotten the ball, he'd had the ball. And I think he'd kind of been holding it. And just it's like that's so antithetical to Mike Brown's move it defense. You could hear Mike Brown all last night on the sideline. It was amazing. It was great. You could hear everything he's saying. And you're like, oh man, this guy is a great, he's throwing out directions. Fantastic. And a lot of coaches do. You just don't get to hear it, but it's just like, I didn't hear Chauncey Billups doing that as much, or at least as loud. Mike Brown was engaged and everything like that. And, man, Metu just, he did. I don't know if he was yelling at him when he should have been moving it there, but it's just like you're getting these constant reminders all night, and it's just like there was a couple moments. It wasn't just him. I know like Keon Ellis held it a little bit, and a couple other guys in the final unit. It wasn't like the most free flowing thing, but they were working some stuff out. But Metu, that kind of almost sums him up. He's kind of got some bounce to him, but he's kind of like not explosive or anything. It just seems like, I don't know. Like, Tony, I know what you're going to say here because I'm going to ask you a question. I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What do you think Chimezie Metu adds to this team? And I don't want to be mean or anything like that. I like Chimezie Metu. I root for him. He had a Mezie moment all throughout the end of last year. He was great in the final 12 games or whatever. He was awesome. But it's like, I'm not seeing that now, and you're not going to just wait around for that. But what does Metu do?
What does he do better than most people on the team? I guess be a spark of energy off the bench. Like I've said in the past, he was the one to throw down dunks and get the team and the fans into it. But other than that, I didn't really care for Metu personally. He's only made the team in the past years by default, and now he's actually on this Kings team that actually has some real talent trying to grab some roster spots. And I think it's really starting to show what Metu is. I'm amazed this dude got some starts last year, but I guess that just showed how weak we've been at that 4 position for the last couple of years.
Looking for something.
Yeah, but you're saying that he's a 5 or a 4. I don't think Metu should ever be playing the 5. I think at points he's an undersized 4. I think he gets away with it because he's a bigger guy and he's athletic, so he can he has that kind of mismatch body type for a 4. But I he's supposed to be a 3-point shooter. I mean, like Chimezie Metu, like in theory, is a stretch four. I'm not saying that's what he is, but that's how like the Kings have used him in years past. What did he shoot from three last year? Like 30%? Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
like
not even
yeah,
that high.
yeah.
Was
It
it
was like
30? Did he
30.
even get to 30?
I think it was 30.1, but it was under
Okay,
30 for most of the year. He closed it out very well.
he did close it out very well, but that dude takes he shoots like he's a shooter. Like if he shot like Trey Lyles and maybe knocked down one or I don't know. He just every open three it feels like he takes and you shoot 30% all year and then you're only making 3 out of 10. It's just a bad clip. He's not a good defender. I don't think he's like terrible, but he's not like wow. That's not he's not on this team because of his defense.
Right.
He's on this team because he has potential to be a stretch four, and I think he's overstayed his welcome. Personally, I don't understand it. I'd rather have Akpala on this team. So at least, like I was saying, at least Akpala adds in defense, and you're going to get that from him. I would rather even have Maneke. At least
You
Maneke's
know,
like, okay, I don't know what this
you
guy's going to. Yeah, here, go for
you
it.
know who I would rather have? I would rather have Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill. The only reason Sam Merrill has no chance of making this team is because he's in a very redundant position. Like you don't, you have Herter, Monk, Davis. You even got uh, Bazemore, and you got other backup guards and Mitchell and Dellavedova, presumably. You just like it doesn't make sense to carry Merrill. I mean, but the thing that I like about Merrill, the thing that I think is great about Merrill, particularly for this team, and I'm not just going to say his 3-point shooting, is that he's almost kind of like a cut rate version of Kevin Herter. He you can play him in the pick and roll. He's a two guard that can handle the ball. Um, he's a great shooter. I mean, that adds into it. Um, he does a lot of things that, kind of, he's like a cheap rate carbon copy version of Kevin Herter. And I think kind of having backups that play similar style. I mean, I think that's what I like with the idea of Lyles being Murray's backup. Lyles is a guy that, I mean, like physically they're a little different, but Lyles is, they're both guys that aren't going to try to do too much. They're going to help you when they can help you. They're going to find ways to help you. They have a similar like play style. And I feel like you could get the same thing out of Merrill. And Merrill is, he's a great 3-point shooter. Um, he's very, very good. And again, it's about what are you bringing. And I think you were going to say it about Moneke. Moneke, you talk about because I was surprised you actually said that Metu brought anything because I thought you were going to say nothing. But you gave him some credit for like the ability to come off the bench, maybe get an alley oop, and fire up the crowd. That's important. Moneke would be better at that. I mean, Maneke kind of was a little choppy with the ball in the one game in Los Angeles. Um, it wasn't like he was exploding on anybody, but he definitely like that would be how he makes his money in this league primarily. Um, and there's a level of mystery at least to him, and it's like there comes a certain point where it's just like this is Metu's third season in Sacramento. It's just like, don't you kind of know what you got? I mean, how much time to evaluate this guy do you need?
No, exactly. It's like he was given his chance. He made a game winner one time, but it's like he was like exactly what you're about to say. And I cut you off, and I'm going to say it worse. But he was, yeah, he's been here 2 years. You know what you're going to get from the dude. It's nothing special. And like you were saying, that mystery Moneke, I'd rather have a guy, bring in that mystery. Maybe give opposing coaches like a different like oh like what do we do with this guy? Unless Metu, just leave him alone in the corner. He's going to shoot that three if it's given to him. So
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is I was just talking about that Metu's kind of a stagnant player. What did Maneke say on media day? He said he feels like he's the best cutter in the world. He's a guy that's built to play in Mike Brown's offense. If he's going to succeed anywhere, it's in Mike Brown's offense. I actually don't know if Chimezie Metu's best role is in this offense. I mean, he might be better off going to a place like being in and up in a place like Utah where he can get some play time or something. But like a team that's totally rebuilding or something where maybe he could see the floor. It's just like because like I said, I like Metu because sometimes I mean like I think he shouldn't be on this team. I don't like him that much, but I think I get excited when he gets hot and he just starts throwing up shots and he's just like, oh man, Mezie Mamba, dude, like here it is. But it's like what we were saying. It's just like you got to get to reality at some point, and he's been here long enough, and that's just kind of tough. But that's just kind of the reality of that situation.